media. Just think it was so much easier back then. Everything's so complicated, can't go on your phone without a conspiracy theory. What's real? I don't know. So I definitely would pick the 90s.
90s sounds great. It does sound great. I agree about that social media. Okay, thank you, Emily Hansen. You are up.
Hi, good morning. I'm Emily Hansen. I'm the middle school dean at Foundations Academy out here in Colorado. And the decade, I would choose the 90s as well for very similar reasons. Simpler time.
Yes, I hear that. Oh, all right. And next up, we have Tiffany.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Copsey. I'm at Achieve Charter Academy. I am the Dean over Special Education Interventions. And if I had to pick an era, I want to say the early 2000s right now because I was in college and I really liked college. It was a lot of fun.
Did you love the music of the 2000s as well?
I really did. I did. It was a good time.
Yeah, it's sad now when we go to the grocery store and they're playing our music, right? That was
on the oldies station.
And Tracy is new to the group. That's why there's an asterisk next to her name. Tracy, go ahead and say hello to the group.
Hi, I'm Tracy Murray. I am the dean also with Tiffany at Achieve over 5th through 8th grade. And I would agree with Tiffany about the college years, but my college years are a little bit earlier than hers. So I would say early 90s. I think just my last couple years of high school and college, the same thing. Go back to those days, the early 90s.
That's awesome. Yeah. So we have a couple of college lovers with us today too. Oh, great. Okay, Erin, you're up next. Erin, I don't know. I can't see your face right now because I only have so many pictures, but I don't know if you're unmuted. I know you're with us. Okay. We'll come back to Erin. Okay, Evie, I see that you were just able to join us. Welcome. We're just sharing a name, school, position, and then in what decade or era would you like to live and why?
I didn't hear the last one. What decade? What decade?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so apologies for, I don't know if you got my email, Emma, but I was just leaving a doctor's appointment, so I had to run in through the parking lot to get in here.
We're glad you're here. You're here.
So, hey, everybody, I'm Yvra Johnson, but they call me Evie. They take my grandmother. I was born 4 days before Christmas, and my grandmother was getting me a Christmas gift, and she couldn't remember Yvra, so she just took 2 letters that she remembered was in my name, the end of E, so. So that's where Evie came from, but that's me. I am at Great Oaks Academy here in Detroit, Michigan, and I'm the dean of middle school. You said what decade? Okay, so I like the 80s, the early 80s. The music was the best. The outfits were colorful. Things seemed so simpler than now, and that's why I would be there.
Makes sense.
I don't know the era of Little House on the Prairie, but that is my that's the real place I would love to be. But
really,
oh yes, I binge watch that. It stays on my TV, muted and unmuted. I love the Little House on the Prairie. So I don't know what era that is, but yeah, that's my real place I would love to be because things were very simple. But I'll settle for the 80s.
Okay. I would have never guessed that about you.
I know, it's shocking.
Thanks, Evie. Okay, Erin, I can see you now, so go ahead.
Can you hear me now too?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. I'm Aaron Nordick. I'm one of the high school deans at Wellspring Prep in Grand Rapids. And I think the decade I would pick is just the 1920s because it seems like a fascinating era.
Oh, okay. Would you be out there with all of the people doing the swing dancing stuff?
I'd be watching. You don't want to see me dance.
Okay. Oh gosh, thank you for sharing. Megan, you're up next.
Hi, I am Megan Weigel. I am the K1 Dean at Legacy. And the era I would like to live in, like Evie, I like the 80s. We had 80s day at school and I fell in love with my crimper again. So I like the clothes, the music, and all that stuff.
I love a good crimp too. I have the 3-barrel. I've been using that lately.
Okay, so I have the original crimper still.
Oh yeah, it's good. All right, thank you. Heather, you're up next.
Good morning. I'm Heather Carlson, and I work at Summerfield Charter Academy in North Carolina. And I am the upper elementary dean, so I do grades 3, 4, and 5. And it's so funny that Evie said that because my first thought was Little House on the Prairie. And then I thought of all the inconveniences. So I thought, oh, but I'm with you. I binge watched that show and I loved that show. And then I thought, no, I got to think of something that had more conveniences for me. And then I went with the 80s because I mean, the hair, it just didn't matter. And it was just such a great, simple time.
So 2 Little House on the Prairie. What is that? Does anybody know what year? I have no idea. Like 30s, but maybe that's not right. I don't know. Could be like way before that. Oh gosh. All right. Thank you, Heather. Patrice. And Patrice is new with us as well.
Hi, I am Patrice Hardy. I am the K2 Dean at Preeminent Charter School in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I would say my decade would definitely be the 90s as well. I totally love the fashion and, girls dressed like boys. And like, it was just a simpler time as well.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Patrice. And welcome. Nikki, yeah, too bad this is recording now because now I have that, like, my history is way off. It's bad. I was thinking like the Great Depression stuff. I don't know. Okay, time to move on. Let's hope Zach doesn't watch this with his social studies background. Okay, so Ashley, as I said, is not here. She is on maternity leave, so hopefully all is going well with her. And so last but not least, we have Nikki.
Hey everyone, my name is Nikki Montague. I'm at Roseville Charter Academy. I'm also a history major, Emily, so there you go. There's the dates thrown in for you. But it's funny, I didn't binge watch Little House on the Prairie, I binge read them. I have all the books and I can't tell you how many times I read them, so I love that era as well. But it's funny that you're saying it, Heather, about the conveniences, and then I went 70s because I like the music of the 70s. So there's where I went with it. But I am the Dean of Special Education, Intervention, and Testing.
All right. Well, thank you, Nikki, and thanks for being our group historian. Very important. And welcome to everyone. Again, I'm so happy that you're here. It's great to see some of the connections that we probably would not have otherwise made from this question. So, all right, let's go ahead and continue on with our time together. This is our agenda for today. As you know, the what column includes our objectives. The why is why we're doing these things, and the how is how we're going to make this happen. So Patton has dropped the interactive agenda in the chat for you to take a look at. Go ahead and look this over and think about your intention for how you want to show up for today's meeting as you look over this agenda. I'll pause for a minute for you to review. All right, are there any questions about our topics for today? Okay, we'll continue on. So I want to return back to the do now question, which was to think back to when you first became a dean, who mentored you, and how would you describe that experience? So we'll just have a couple of people to share out here. Go ahead, Nikki.
I've got to give a shout out because my deans and my mentors in this group, my official Heather Carlson was my dean mentor. Best mentor in the world, just I could go to her with anything. And then I was also very lucky to have Patton in the building with me when I became a dean. So I had two of the best. So it was a great experience. And I would say the support and just knowing that someone was there I could go to at any time to ask a question and I wasn't graded or judged, it wasn't my superior, was really kind of freeing for me.
Thank you, Nikki. I appreciate that. Shout out to Heather and Patton. All right, someone else.
I can share. I don't even remember the last name of my mentor because it was so long ago, but what I appreciated is my first year was kind of rough. And so I had someone to talk to that was not in my, like, on my leadership team. So I was able to, like, you know, just talk about my experience and processing things with someone that wasn't necessarily involved with my everyday, you know, job. And it was kind of nice. It helped me put things in perspective.
Good. Thank you. So, oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Evie.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know if you were taking any more.
No, go ahead. Of course.
I actually didn't have a mentor. So that was weird. And I didn't know that was a thing to have one. So I was really only getting coached by the principal at that time. So, and it was hands-on and learning everything on the fly and just not knowing what was right and what was wrong until you found out it was wrong and it was right.
Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you. Oftentimes, our mentoring that we've experienced might be someone showing us where things are in the building. Like, here's the copy machine. Here's how you do this. This is where the cafeteria is. This is where the staff eats lunch, right? And those sort of just like minimal things, but it doesn't continue on like past that like surface level, right? It sounds like some of you have had really great experiences, which is awesome. But in most common places, people say this is mentoring and they're just kind of showing them like around the building or just very small little pieces and then it ends. But at NHA, we're striving to move away from like traditional mentoring, which is what our program is striving to do, and for us to become educative mentors. And so this slide here that you're seeing is based on research by our team member, Dr. Jessica Engel. She's on CNI and our SLD team, but her research focuses on new teachers, but this slide is applicable to our new deans as well. As you read through the components of traditional and educative mentoring, I want you to think about how these two types of mentoring are different. So how is this program different from other like mentoring programs maybe that you've heard about or experienced? And you can just add your thoughts to the chat. So again, how is educative mentoring different from traditional mentoring? Like, what things are you noticing? Go ahead, Evie.
To compare and contrast, the traditional is more so like a sit and get, if you will. Just do as I say. And the educative challenges the learner to explore their own thought process, and it's a lot of them involved versus you just do what I tell you to do and use my strategy. So it's more so using, allowing them to establish themselves.
Yeah. Yep. Tracy has shared in the chat that the mentee is more involved in the process with educative. Nikki has shared traditional is very surface level. Natalie has shared educative is focused on growth. Yes, those are all true things. And when we think of like traditional mentoring, it's more like they're a peer buddy, right? They assist you, they make sure that you're successful like when you're starting out. But then that's it. Like it might happen for like a couple months and then it's over. So again, we're really focused on becoming educative mentors, which are the most influential to retaining and developing new deans. And like I like to say, if we don't help them grow, we watch them go. So when we become educative mentors, we are creating a disposition of inquiry. We have the view of leading as a complex practice, and understanding too that you all can learn from your mentees. And I think some of you experienced that last year. as you were sharing things out, they were sharing ideas as well that maybe you hadn't considered before, right? And you're thinking like, oh, this is a new way to look at this. Maybe I'll try this out. So we can both learn from one another. So educative mentoring ties directly to our NHA Dean Mentor vision, which is making a significant impact on the success of new deans by being relational, reliable, supportive, and encouraging thought partners. So I want you to think now of what evidence shows that you are living up to our team statement. What does it mean to be relational, reliable, supportive, and encouraging? And then what is the evidence that shows these things? Like, what does that look like? So those of you that have been on our mentoring team last year, how did this vision show up in your meetings? Who can share some of their thoughts about that?
I can. I think, just relational being the first one is so important because these are some of the time they're strangers. Sometimes they're in your, you know them from your DSQ group, but oftentimes you're just first meeting them. And to truly, I feel like, do those educative
Yes.
items, they really have to trust you that you're really there to support them. So again, supportive, and then reliable. They'll only value it if you're there on time and follow through with what you say you're going to support them on. So I felt like those were all really part of what we did last year.
Thanks, Natalie. Who can add on to what Natalie is saying, or just reference their time last year in the role? Go ahead, Heather, and then we'll go to Megan.
Okay. I was thinking about the evidence, Emily, and of course, I couldn't control everyone coming every time, but mostly the ones that really, the majority of them did, because they really were learning from one another. And I think that's good evidence. And they were sharing resources with one another. And it never failed that they almost had similar needs, of course, because they're in that first year. So we had conversations where sometimes we did go find something, but then we talked about the next time, how did you use it? How did it go? And it just was very, very practical.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like job embedded, right? It's all connected to what they're doing and what they need. Go ahead, Megan.
I was going to say the thought partners was big. The collaboration between the cohort was amazing. So a lot of times I just facilitated and they were able to share what they did in each of their buildings or ideas that they had, and they could bounce ideas off each other. And I walked away with more tools in my tool belt as well. And I also found new ways that I want to do something, or just hearing what other schools did. I really learned a lot about what I wanted to do and what I could add to what I'm already doing in my wing.
I love that. That's a sign of an effective, right, mentor-mentee like relationship, when both people are growing and getting something from that. Thank you for sharing. All right, so part of our envision, just as Megan shared, includes you as a thought partner. So let's review this definition from Forbes. So go ahead and just take a moment to look that over. As you work to become a really good thought partner for your new dean mentee, keep in mind the common mistakes that mentors can make as they're in this role. So right now I'm going to have you to read this article called Common Mistakes Made by New Mentors, even though some of you are returning mentors. And I would like for you to read the article and then come up with something that is resonating with you. So the link can be found in the chat box or in your interactive agenda. So we'll take a few minutes to read that now. And then when we're ready, come back to the chat and just jot down something that's resonating with you. All right, as you're finishing up, jot something that resonates with you in the chat. I see Tiffany has started us off. And Tiffany's message says, don't be so quick to provide solutions to problems, guide them to find what works for them. Yeah. And kind of like Megan was saying, like if you're sitting back and being that facilitator, then that will happen. That will happen naturally. Like if you wait to be the last one to share something. Thanks, Tiffany. Yes, Heather, think of yourself as a poser of questions. You don't have to have all of the answers. You can ask some questions. Yeah, and that leads to Natalie's. Help your mentor find their own solutions, right? Sometimes they just need someone to think through what they're thinking about and to say it out loud. Get to know the person, and if you open the door, the mentoree will enter. All right. Trying to do too much and being quick to rescue them instead of helping them to do their own thinking. Yeah, if you're sitting there doing all of the research for them, like that's not your job. You can lead them to it, right? Building trust and being a good listener. Yep, Emily and Patrice were in the same thing. Sharing your personal experience. I think that's really important, Patrice, like being vulnerable to let them know, even though you may be in your, 10th plus year, right, of being a dean, you still have moments too where things are challenging, and it's okay for them to know that and for you to say that and to help them work through those things. So I think a lot of you have provided all of these, but we'll just stamp it up here for you. So again, as a mentor, you're a thought partner. When you're eager to provide, we can become a problem solver, but don't. It's not your problem to solve, right? It's their problem. When we take on too much ownership, we own it rather than asking, like, how can I assist you? And for those of you that have been in Principal Prep Academy, that's that monkey management, right? You're taking on other people's monkeys. And when we start coaching our mentees, we, because we're not comfortable, remember to be confident. Your DSQ and SLD has selected you to be in this role. So ask those follow-up questions. When we do these things, we are a thought partner for our mentees. So now we've explored educative mentoring and our vision for the mentoring program. Now I'd like to shift gears a little bit and ask you to reflect on the impact that you want to make as a mentor. So what is your why? So you can either jot something in the chat, or you can go ahead and unmute and share with us, what is your why for mentoring? All right, is anyone ready to share out what impact? Oh, good, thank you, Tiffany. But yeah, what impact do you want to make as a mentor? Support, grow, and maintain great leaders within our company, along with continuing to grow and challenging myself. I heard a lot of that coming through just in our other conversations too. Thank you, Tiffany. Nikki has said to pay it forward. Ooh, everybody's things are coming in now. You all were typing, okay. To pay it forward and help others to see their own strengths and gifts. The way Heather and Patton did for me, I probably wouldn't have stayed in administration without their support. Oh, so important. Building connections and empowering new leaders and to grow alongside them. Yes. Being new to any role is scary. A listening ear and thought partner to make this experience a little less scary for someone else. Yeah, leadership is lonely, right? So finding other people to help others be successful in a difficult role. Through coaching others, I get to be part of the growth of more scholars than just at my school. Ooh, student growth. That's great too. Building their confidence and being available to provide support by being a thought partner. Yeah, a lot of times they're questioning themselves being new to that role. Like Patrice said, it's a little bit scary. So building that confidence and letting them know they're on the right track. And then Erin added to give back and provide a safe space for processing. Yeah, Erin, I wish I had taken time in my first year to slow down, reflect, and consider my impact. That is great. Thank you all. So this school year, as you know, our new deans are going to feel like they're being hit with the fire hose. They're receiving a lot of information from many places, including new dean programming, mentoring, their schools, their principal, their DSQ, and sometimes they're enrolled to earn their administrative certificate, right? They may not have that yet. So that's why you're here to help support with that. So we'll be having them attend an additional meeting, yes, but it's my hope to look at these meetings and their one-on-one meetings with you that will help them to decrease some of that fire hose pressure and provide them with resources. So let's take a look at what will be happening with our cohort meetings. Now, those of you that have been here, this is going to be a little bit of a review for you I want to share. So I am going to ask you to answer some of the questions just to help our couple of new people to be able to take a look at that. So again, it's a little trip down memory lane. This is the agenda that we're using at each meeting last year, and then I have received your feedback that you liked the way that it was going, and so we're going to continue on with this year. Also, the link to this agenda has been shared, So Patrice and Evie, if you want to take any notes based on what our returning mentors say, you can go ahead and do that. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper into each piece of this again. So at the beginning, we begin with a check-in question, and returning mentors, what happened as a result of the check-in question? What did you look to do by having this at the beginning of your meeting? Go ahead, Aaron.
It was just a really good opportunity to kind of see where everyone was at and who may need kind of additional support following the meeting and connecting with them.
Yeah, thank you. And I've placed some different things in there, but this again is an area where you can kind of choose the check-in question that you want to do. Do you want to have an on the scale of guinea pig question? Would you rather question, mood meter? Today I asked the decade question, right? So just a check-in question. And also that helps the group to make some of those connections, right? And as Aaron said, it lets you know if you're using the mood meter and somebody's down in or over in the red, that might lead you to ask some other questions or perhaps follow up with them later. So these check-in questions really help us to build those relationships. The next section is to review action items from the previous meeting. A mentor who's returning from last year, can you share something that perhaps you asked your mentees to bring in as a reviewed item? Or if it wasn't an item, something that you said that you were going to follow up on.
Emily, I never really asked them to bring anything because they had so much that they were doing and trying to swallow anyways. I took notes in all my meetings of like different conversations we had and things that they were trying or ideas that had been tossed out, and then made it a point, wasn't really reviewing action item, but of specifically asking, hey, how'd this go? I know you had a hard conversation coming up with a teacher. Talk it through. How'd it go? Looking back on it, and like we reflected together as a team then with things, instead of actually bringing like an artifact or something. I just made sure I took notes on what was concerning them, what they were asking questions about to follow up in the next one.
That sounds great. That also helps them to build relationships when doing that, Nikki, because they know, hey, Nikki cared enough to listen to what I was saying to ask me about this and how it went at the next meeting. So that's great. Go ahead, Evie.
So, Emily, what will be, or any one of you guys, what will be an example of an item being brought in?
I don't know if any of the mentors want to share first. Go ahead, Natalie.
So I kind of did it similarly to Nikki. I didn't give them actual like assignments. I felt guilty doing that with the needs that they brought to the group every time. But I also kept notes, and then we do the same thing. We kind of would bring back up what were the major topics from the time before. And what was cool is other deans would end up sharing artifacts or solutions with the whole team. So I really liked the group dynamic. So one of the things was really culture that they struggled with and managing like teacher shortages. So they ended up bringing things each time of like solutions they came up with. So I thought that was really cool. So I also didn't necessarily assign them specific artifacts, but they ended up bringing them just by tracking and re-bringing up the topics.
Thanks, Natalie. Yeah, so Evie, perhaps like if somebody's saying they've been struggling with an O3 template and the group later provides like an example, then at this part they'd say, okay, I was struggling with an O3 template. This is what I've come up with. Let me show it to you, like something like that. So it really is like job embedded. It's not meant to be like any additional homework. It's just meant to support them in the role. All right. And remember, also, we want to celebrate the things that they're doing well when we go back to check in, like, great, I'm glad you had that hard conversation, because we want to continue to boost their confidence. Oops. Okay. So the academic season preparation portion of the meeting is one of the best parts, I think. You guys talk about what's coming up and how to handle some of those different pieces. Could one of you returning mentors talk to us a little bit about this portion of the academic season prep?
I'll share again. Sorry. Just I know this really, really helped when it got to the middle of the year or end of the year when um they didn't none of my mentees they were almost all test coordinators and not one of them was prepared or had even thought about testing yet. And so I didn't expect to support as much. So maybe I was one of those don't do mentors, but I was like, oh my goodness, this isn't good. Like, oh, you're PSAT and MSTEP coordinator and blah, blah, blah. So I just think it was really good that it was embedded because we came a lot of things that they were not looking ahead on came up from that side.
Yeah. And that's what happens, right? It's that fire hose. They don't know what they don't know. Like they're just like, oh, now I have this, now I have this, now I have this. But testing coordinator is a huge thing, right? So Natalie, I don't think what you did was like a ton of extra. Natalie reached out to me and said, hey, how can I help support these people? This is what they're going through. And we got that done for them. So they didn't know who to reach out to. So I don't feel like that's too extra, Natalie. But again, you all know what's coming up. You know the flows are coming, the 9-box, all these pieces that they maybe don't know, and they're really reactive. So as their cohort leader, you get to share resources with the group. Yeah. I know all of our mentees' duties in the beginning. Yeah, I mean, that's helpful too. Go ahead, Megan.
I was going to say that I did bring the academic season prep. You know, we know what comes up, but I also asked them what big rock they had because they might be a dean of a different grade level. Like testing is a big one. I have little people, I don't deal with that. But I asked them because each school is different. What's a big rock that you have? So not just that it's my big rocks or NHA's big rocks, but what personally do you have going on that you think is a big rock? And then we also work to help address that.
Yeah, very important. I think in the slideshow that we have for them, it even has the big rock on there too. So that's good as well. All right. And then we move into the time where we celebrate what's working and then we address what's not, like what's going well for you and then what's a challenge. And then your group can suggest ways to move forward. And a word of caution here as a reminder, if something comes up that feels sticky, like, I don't know if I should be like answering this question. The best solution is to encourage them to talk with their principal or their DSQ about it. If it becomes something like where it is their principal or their DSQ, you can reach out to me and I can help to support that and navigate that. But let's try to avoid those types of situations and conversations at all costs too. Again, I'm available as a thought partner for you. And then action for the next section. What are we going to ask them to do? If they're not bringing something, perhaps be ready to talk about this particular topic when we come back. So it just really makes sure that they know that you're committed to them. And this is kind of accountability, but not in a negative way, right? Like we want to continue to support you with this piece. And so the final piece then is the new dean survey. And I did receive feedback that initially, like my feedback to you was a little slow. So I'm going to pick that pace up this year and I'll have that feedback to you within the week. So this will be used for our cohort meetings. Again, the form just has the 3 main questions of what's the main point, what's a question that's still circling in your mind. So that might be something that you can bring up at your next meeting with them. And then what's something that's squaring or resonating with you. And then there's another other space where they can fill in some comments there. All right. And then this year, based on feedback that I received from our end of the year mentor survey, we're going to bring back 3 one-on-one meetings with each of your new deans. So those will occur in October, and then you have December or January, not both, just one or the other, and then March. So as you prepare for these new one-on-ones, what are some of the best practices maybe that like you've used in meetings, like meeting one-on-one with mentees in the past, or maybe even some of your new staff members that you have as like direct reports? What are some of the things, like best practices? Go ahead, Tiffany.
Because 2 years ago when I was a mentor, it was only one-on-ones, and I used to reach out to them about a week before just to remind them about the upcoming meeting. But then I'd also just kind of say if there's any, specific topics you'd want to discuss, if you want to maybe give me some, a heads up. That way, if I want to prepare for something or look into something, so I'd kind of just do almost like an email chat kind of before, just to see if there's something I could do to prepare ahead of time so that I can make it more productive in that time.
I love that. That's great. Helps to set you up for success too, in case they're going to ask about something and you're like, "Ooh, I have something that can help them," but now you're taking the time during the meeting. Okay, anything else?
Emily, I just always ask them what's on their mind, and I let them hear first. That often ends up in tears. I mean, it's not uncommon. And sometimes we just have to get that out of the way and address what is weighing on them. And then as you build that relationship, I think they appreciate having someone who will just listen. So I try to always do that first.
Yeah, I love that what's on your mind question from the coaching habit too. And then you continue from there. So with our meeting agenda, I'm going to provide for you like a suggested agenda just to help frame your thoughts and ideas as you meet with your mentees. But we'll go over the purpose, like why are we meeting in cohorts and now we're meeting individually? Like what is the purpose of that? We'll have like a get to know you, again, just like trust builder type piece. We'll establish the norms. So again, you're meeting with them one-on-one 3 times. Do you want to set up the meetings at your first meeting so that they have those on their calendar? You'll come up with their most pressing mentee concern or their goal, whichever one they want to talk about. What goal do you have for yourself this year? And then you can ask them about that, even in the cohort meetings if you want to, or what's on your mind, and that will usually come up with a need. And then you'll schedule the follow-up meeting. Again, there's only 3 one-on-ones, so it will be like a cohort meeting, one-on-one, cohort meeting, one-on-one. That's how it will go throughout the year. And as a mentor, we want to make sure that you're asking open-ended questions, providing that think time, paraphrasing to clarify and show understanding, offering non-judgmental statements about their leadership behaviors, because sometimes we're like, oh goodness, like we really want to say, what were you thinking? But we can't say that, right? Like we have to help them process through this and say, maybe if you were to do this differently next time, what would it look like? And then finally, we want to model those positive interactions. Sometimes we do need to just tell them, like, if they're like, where can I find the interactive classroom framework? Just tell them, right? But other times we want you to stay curious and continue asking those questions. So again, as I've mentioned, a suggested agenda will be provided for you to use. So you can use it, you can tweak it, however you want to go forward from there. Our new, we have a new Dean Mentor Program Google Drive. We are not going to be having the Google Classroom this year. I know a couple of you really used it, but others did not. So if that's something that you want to do, I'll allow you to do that on your own. But Patton has dropped the link to our new Dean Mentor Program Google Drive. You can take a moment now to explore the folder. I suggest you making this folder a favorite, just so you don't have to continue looking around for it. In this, you'll find a folder for each of you. You'll see our new attendance sheet is in there, the sample agenda template for our cohort meetings, and then the Dean Mentor Program Guide is also in there. Again, if you can make that folder a favorite in your file, that way you won't be able to lose it. It's just easier to find. And then after all of our meetings, I will also be sharing the link in that too, so you'll get the follow-up email with that information. So in addition to having the participants take a survey to provide us with their feedback, you'll also be taking attendance. This year, rather than putting attendance on a tab for each of you separately, I've put it all in one area because this is easier for our people that have to upload this into the system. So you'll see your name over to the left. It's alphabetical by your first name. and then you'll see your people's names over to the right. For those of you that are supporting people in more than one state, they're kind of separated by state in there. So if you're like, I thought I'm like put this alphabetically, it is, except for the people by state. They're alphabetic by state in your particular section. The next thing I want you to take a look at really quickly is this Dean Mentor Program Guide. In there are included your mentor development dates. Those are the dates for you. This year we've gone from 4 after this initial meeting to 3. So we did drop down 1 there. You have the new Dean Mentor cohort dates, and then the new Dean Mentor one-on-one months are included in there, as well as the payment structure. Some of you have already accepted a 7th mentee, and so you should have received an email with me. So your payment structure may look a little bit differently. We do have, I think, about 5 or 6 more new deans that have recently been hired. So I'll be looking to place them in groups as well. So I'm currently working through that. But any questions about the items in the program guide here? Okay. And also these links will all be available to you after the meeting if you need to spend some more time with these things. So we are going to have the 1-hour virtual meetings. These are our other 3 meetings. The first one will be August 28th. These will be at 9 a.m. except on Tuesday, December 3rd. I have a new principal academy on the 4th, so that's why that one will be on the 3rd, and that one will be at 10 a.m. And then our final meeting will be on Wednesday, March 5th. So you should have received all of those calendar invites. If you have not received them, please let me know so that I can make sure that you get those invitations. And as always, during our meeting time, what we'll be doing for part of the time is preparing ourselves for our next meeting. So new mentors, try not to have like you doing all of that work outside of our time together, but we'll put together your Google Slides presentations, and we'll talk about the one-on-one mentor meeting suggested agenda that I provide during our time together as well. So it's really important for you to attend those meetings. And then all of our cohort sessions are going to take place on the dates listed. Last year, I sent out all of the invitations on your behalf. However, this year, I'm going to have you all to send out the invites. And the reason for that being is because if you have to change the date because one of your DSQs has scheduled Dean Development Day, or you have a field trip that you have to go on, these are some of the things that happened last year, right? Or you have an illness, you don't have to wait for me to move your meeting. So what I'm going to have you do, we can take a few minutes right now. So these are the meetings. And Patton has dropped your cohort in the chat as well. We're going to send these Outlook calendar invites out. Here's the thing. This year, I want you to be able to pick the time that you want your meetings to be. So let's say for your September 25th meeting, you decide, I want to meet with the cohort at 10 a.m. And then at that meeting, you might say, 10 a.m. really doesn't work best for the whole group, and you want to change the time. Go ahead and change the time. Maybe they want to meet with you after school. I don't know, whatever time works best for you and for your cohort. Obviously, you're not going to be able to make it work for every single person, but I mean, every single person is not going to have like their choice of time, right? But that way you can have a little bit more flexibility. I would prefer that you keep them on these dates though, because there's a lot of other things, unless of course you have like one of those Dean Development Days or something pops up. So also, Patton, can you drop the link to the message? So I put this message together for you that you can use in the body of the meeting invitation. Do you want to take a couple minutes to get like your first couple of these out right now? Does that sound good? Yeah? Okay. So let's take a couple minutes. And if anybody needs help sending this like meeting invitation, please let me know and I can support you. So we'll do like 2 minutes right now. Also, I forgot to say this, but if you can put put me as an optional participant. That way, then I know when your meetings are scheduled. I would appreciate that as well. I received your invite, Natalie, for your first one. Okay. I know that there's more that you're going to have to send. So at least get the first one out, and that way they'll have that on their calendars. They also have this on their calendar, which you'll see in just a moment. So these one-on-one meetings will be a 20 to 30-minute virtual, and this did not say cohort meeting there, my apologies. It's just a virtual meeting, 20 to 30 minutes with each of your people one-on-one in these months. So you'll determine what day in October, what day in December or January, and what day in March. And I'm going to suggest that you try to line some of those up maybe at the end of your dean cohort meeting, so that you can go ahead and say, I'm available on these dates, and let your people kind of pick the time that works best for them. Any questions about the one-on-one meeting? Because I know that is a new feature for this year. In the attendance, when you hold your one-on-one meeting, rather than marking someone present or absent, you'll just write the date that you held that meeting in there so that they can get credit for that time as well. In our Google folder, so once you're in our Google Drive for the new Dean Mentor cohort, once you're in there, there is a folder that's labeled number 2. And the number 2 folder, actually, it's not number 2, my apologies, it's number 3. And it says NDY1 program. In there, you'll find these 3 documents. These 3 documents are the documents that all new deans have received. The first document is the new Dean Year 1 program calendar. So on that calendar, you'll see dates for their coursework and learning, when they have live virtual meetings, in-person trainings, when they have meetings with you. So their calendar will be really important to consider when you're planning one-on-one sessions, and it's all color-coded. So when I mentioned the word coursework, you may be wondering, oops, sorry, what coursework am I talking about? So you see at the bottom that NHA Learn tile. This year, a lot of the learning that our deans will be doing has been kind of transferred into Canvas in this program called NHA Learn. So they have learning modules that they need to complete this year. So that's a new feature to assist with their learning. It also assists with deans maybe who have not started right when the school year starts, so that they can catch up and learn the things that they need to learn. So those are also listed on their calendar. Go ahead, Tracy.
Yes, I learned about the micro lessons, I guess, during Leadership Summit. When will we have access to those, the micro learnings?
And you're probably talking about like for new teachers. Did you attend Jess Engel's session? Like
yes, but also because we were told we could assign them to other teachers and stuff. But I know when we go on right now, we don't have access to Canvas.
Yeah, I know. That's what else I was going to tell you too. So all of those links that are like listed for them, you're not able to click. I don't have the answer right now on that, but I will definitely get that answer to you. Because those micro learnings look really awesome. These are a little bit different than micro learnings. They're a little bit longer in length, and they might have some like dean tasks associated with them. But the micro learnings are going to be awesome. So thanks for that question, and I will get that answer to you as soon as I can. The final document that's in here is just an overview of the entire program. It's kind of broken them up into trimesters of when each of those topics will take place. So if you're seeing like, oh, they're asking me a lot of questions about this, it's probably because they just learned about it. After each new Dean Year 1 session, Patton usually sends out an email to everybody with what's covered, action items, and reminders. She's already sent out the first one from Leadership Summit. So now I'm going to forward those on to all of you so that you also have that information. Just know, like as I shared with Tracy just now, those links in there are not going to work for you because you're not assigned to that learning. So just be aware of that. So to sum up everybody's roles, I am the program manager for this program. We're both responsible for relationships. I'm responsible for supporting you and for communication to participants, leaders, and mentors. You then are responsible for your position-specific learning. I've tried really hard this year to make sure all of the deans in your cohort are in the same position as you to make it a little bit easier. And not to have two groups of people so you feel like, I don't know if I supported this group, right? You're going to hold those one-on-one meetings, track attendance, and then you'll be the main point of contact for the new deans. So our action items that we have at our next meeting, we'll discuss core values. We'll prepare for our September and November cohort meetings, and then we're going to prepare for our October one-on-one meetings while we're in our session together. All right, are there any final questions from the group? Okay, so I will remind you as an action item too, if you did not get out all of your meeting invites, go ahead and try to get those out. Otherwise, if you want to do them at our next meeting session, that will be fine too, as long as you have the September one out to get started. All right, and with that, I launch you with this quote. A mentor empowers a person to see a possible future and believe it can be obtained. So know that you all are doing really amazing and important work, and I'm so thankful for each of you. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in about